What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, joined by now television superstar, bonafide play-by-play champ, Tommy Morris, and Bodie De Silva from Scorebook Live. Bodie, as I will remind everybody in this room, went from just kind of semi-important to being the national Power 25 rankings guy for all of football in the entire country for SBLive, the biggest high school sports provider in the country. So we're always honored to have his presence. Guys, it is week 8. There are 11 weeks. We are at 7 games for some teams, 6 games for a couple teams. Most teams are, I think we're pretty confident who they are now. And so I think that means we know who some of these dudes are. And not to say that 2 or 3 weeks in, you can't be like, oh, that's dope that they already have 5 touchdowns, but sometimes that's all they're going to get for that year. And I think now at 7 or 8-ish games, we have seen enough to talk about who some of the big time stats leaders are, who some of the teams are that maybe need some shout outs for things that they have accomplished as a group. Bodie was going to start us off actually, because he said he had some streaks that he wanted to get to, and then we will get to some of the individual categories. Bodie, what were you talking about?
Yeah, so I'm always interested when teams have been going on these runs, and a couple teams obviously won state last year for San Diego, and 2 of them have kept those streaks going. So Granite Hills and Lincoln they have 2 of the longest winning streaks in the entire state going right now. Lincoln is, after last week's win, they're now up to 20 straight wins, which is the longest in California among 11-man teams. There is Fresno Christian 8-man, they're at 30, but recognizing among 11, 20 in a row is a big time deal for Lincoln. And Granite Hills right behind them, they're 3rd in the state at 16. So those are up there with the all-time streaks we've had in the San Diego section. And then Carlsbad, I believe they're at 26 in a row in league play right now. They've been dominant in a league that's very good. That Avocado has been good, but obviously with having 2 Sayan brothers at quarterback, they have been able to lead the charge there, and we'll have a chance to finish it out with 3 more league wins the rest of the year if they can keep it going.
And if everything matches up the way it could, the Lincoln Granite streak will end with one of them beating the other one.
Potentially, yep. There you go.
Yeah, man. You hate to see when that has to happen. I mean, you love it in principle, but then you hate to see where you're like, come on, man, we need these streaks. We need more opportunities to have these streaks going.
Taking each other out.
Bodie, maybe you can look this up. Maybe you can't. I don't know how, but what's the most cumulative number of wins siblings have had in CIF history?
I'm trying to think over the years of siblings.
Do they have to play quarterback?
Well, okay, so that I'm sure. Let's figure out the parameters of the.
I go back the 4 CAs, maybe that would be one to go back.
Well, they got an extra one. They had 3.
Yeah.
So okay, so then maybe it's just wins or rushing. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But maybe the better question is just who is the most dominant set of siblings all time, because that feels like a pretty potent 1-2 punch for what has it been 6 years in a row at the helm with the Sayan brothers and all the success that Carlsbad has had. I am hard pressed, other than someone like the 4 CAs, to remember something quite like that. Looking over at the individual categories, I would like to say, to nobody's surprise, Ratamana Bulabulavu from Army Navy is in the leader on the sacks. He's going to win it. He's at 15 already. It's crazy. Bodie mentioned it a couple weeks ago. He's at 50 something through something 20 games. Dude's outrageous. He's awesome. I was looking around at some of the other stats and wanted to jump to rushing. Right now, we have 4 guys that have eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark. Sir Autry from Hoover, Nick Patterson from Escondido, Jonathan Sablin from Sage Creek, and Janwell Fernandez from Palo Verde Valley, with a couple other guys in the 9 and 800s. Was there anybody that jumped out to you guys on that list?
I think Sir Autry obviously was a guy coming into the season we were expecting to see rush for a lot of yards. I don't know if we expected this. I mean, 187, we'll round it up. 188 yards per game, 17 touchdowns. That's crazy. So that's huge. And then going to Fernandez at Palo Verde, we knew that they were losing kind of their 2 main guys on offense. Would he be able to step up? And he has proven not only can he step up, he's just as good as the guys before him. So pretty big shout out there. And then I'll give another one. He isn't at 1,000 yet, but Chris Bosch. Fallbrook playing a little bit tougher of a schedule this year, and he's still been productive. So shout out for him too.
Bodie, when it comes to we talked about who's the most dominant or maybe best player, who gets the singular MVP type award throughout San Diego high school football a couple weeks ago. And, we were talking, does Kevin Allen become the favorite because he plays both ways? Is someone like Julian Sayin because of his success? At what point does Sir Autry enter into that conversation? Does he have to get 1,500 yards this season? Does he have to get 2,000 yards this season? Because yes, you can say he's playing a different kind of caliber of opponent than some of those top tier open division guys. But at what point does dominance just become dominance?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an exact answer to that. I actually had popped on some of his highlights last night just to go through and seeing the game against Maranatha. He went for 292, 16 a carry. It almost seems like he's playing a different sport. He's going around the field there, and some of these defenders just know they have no angle, no chance to get him once he gets to a certain point. And I believe he's taking a trip to Air Force here soon. So hopefully these colleges are coming around and starting to realize the talent he's got. But yeah, I mean, 3 games over 200 yards rushing, it's tough to kind of put an exact barometer on what would put him in the mix, other than he's having a great year. He's in the mix. If he's not the favorite, that's fine. I understand it for that. But like, if this is if they've got 3 games left, I mean, if this is a guy who can get to 1,800 yards, if he can get close to that 2,000 mix, like, yeah, put him in the mix. It doesn't mean he has to win it, but at least put him up there among the best.
Let's talk about receiving. Cody Bigley from Grossmont having himself a hell of a year, just shy of 1,000 yards. He's got 12 touchdowns. He's one of the most productive receivers in the state. But I think if you look, I mean, you go down all the way to the middle of this like 15 to 20 kid list, and you're like, man, it's been a pretty good year for passing the ball in San Diego County. Your thoughts, Tommy?
Yeah, well, if you look at yards per game, it's actually Ian Brown from Bishops, Bishops has had sort of a resurgence here in the second half of the season. They look a lot better than they did, week 1, week 2, week 3, when they kind of struggled offensively. They had a lot of young guys in key spots. And so Ian Brown really stepping up there for the Knights. And then, what's crazy about Hoover is we just mentioned Sir Autry, but Xavier Williams is also number 3 on the receiving list. So it's not only they're running the ball well, they're passing the ball well. So got to give him a shout out as well, because it is not just totally a one-man show at Hoover. There's a couple other guys on offense that have been effective.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed receiver-wise this year is a lot of the top teams have several guys to go to. It's not just one combination where one quarterback has one receiver he throws to, whether it's Lincoln's got guys that Akili Smith Jr. is throwing it around to. Julian obviously has many targets and a great ground game there. I'll mention one just because I saw this play in person the other night, and it's one that can't be broken but will be tied for history, and that's Dre Garner from Lincoln. Lincoln was backed up all the way to their own half-yard line. They hit him on about 20-25 yard hitch. He breaks a tackle, gets a block, and goes 99 yards for the touchdown there. So obviously 99 yards, can't beat that. We don't count them like the kickoff returns maybe in the NFL where you could get 106 yards or whatever. Like 99 is the record, whether it was from the half-yard mark, whatever it was. But he's a player that's come over from University City, and coaches have certainly taken notice, and he's put up really a really good relationship with Akili, and they both transferred in. They've played their 8 games so far, and I believe connected on 6 touchdowns. So really a great pass combo there, and Dre has done some work.
Chancellor Chapa, another one of the more productive receivers that we expected to be there, is there. So congratulations to him on having a great season. Jeremiah Castillo has been balling out a ton, benefiting from the offense of change of mindset at Mount Miguel. I look down here though, and I'm kind of looking at 2 or 3 guys in this final stretch of how they're going to set their teams up as being like the playmakers on the team. And I love to see when a wide receiver can be that guy. I'm looking at to see what Ty Olson at Del Norte can still get as a junior this year. He's at 600 plus yards. And again, you look at these yards per reception, everyone's at well over 15. So it's definitely the deep vertical ball being used. I look at Jace Nix at San Marcos. They could be a potential sleeper team because in that playoff format, you only got to win a couple of games, as well as Chris Brown with Mira Mesa. Guys, let's go over to the passing side. Quarterbacks this year, you have to go 26 names down to find somebody who is not currently yet at 1,000 passing yards. So yeah, it seems to correlate that we would have good receivers, that we would have, like you said, a lot of people spreading the ball around to a lot of receivers. Who catches your eye up here? Because guys, I'm seeing low interceptions, seeing high touchdowns, seeing great passing yards. It seems like there's a lot of quarterbacks that we could talk about on the stat leaderboards. Tommy, you want to get us started?
Yeah, and sort of what you said, not to keep mentioning the same school, so I'll try and spread the love around a little bit. We could talk about Achilles Smith, obviously, Hudson Herbert. We're going to talk about Grossmont later. We're going to talk about Mount Miguel later, so we'll get there when we get there. But Tyson Line at Mira Mesa, I've been very impressed with throughout his high school career and continues to do well. Chris Brown obviously helps having him with him. I mean, they'll go together to college in Southern Utah, but Tyson Line, I think, is probably one of the best combinations of having the arm with the legs. He really, really can beat you both ways. And the arm has been very impressive throughout his high school career, and the legs have always kind of been there too. So I like Tyson Line as a quarterback. And I'm going to mention Quentin DeMar also. I know University City hasn't had the season they want. He's averaging 258 yards per game. He has, again, this is for them. It's been a tough schedule and it's been an uphill battle, but he's stuck through it and has performed well so far this season.
Bodie, your thoughts?
Yeah, there's so many names, obviously, and even when you go below 1,000, a lot of big name quarterbacks at big schools.
Oh yeah, no, hey, I just had to use 1,000 as a certain kind of delineator. Otherwise, you would just keep going. Like,
no, absolutely. I think the one to me that stands out is Carson Howard at El Camino, a guy who was in my kind of breakout performance list a couple weeks back. Led them to a big playoff victory at Helix last year, but I think he's gotten a lot better. All last year, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, has already made that 17 touchdowns, 3 picks now. El Camino, you always know you're going to get really good defense from them, but if they can score and really put together a really good offense, I think that's a dangerous team, one that I would expect to make noise in the Division I playoffs.
And I'll add one more, slightly biased, but I'm going to add Jackson Deal in there too. He missed a couple games, so the total yards aren't where they should be. But if you look at the rushing numbers, I don't know where he ranks for quarterbacks, but he's got to be pretty close to first. So
yeah, you stole one of my shout outs I wanted to give there, because Jackson is having an amazing bounce back season after suffering a little bit of an injury to the ankle early in the season. Caden Thompson is interesting for me as a freshman. To have almost 1,300 yards for an Escondido team that seems younger and hitting a reset with a new coach. Say what you will. I think a freshman closing in on 1,500 passing yards seems like a pretty solid indicator that the kid's going to have himself a pretty decent high school career. Tommy, you mentioned.
Yeah, I think one other, just to add, another freshman, Zach Benitez, has been impressive for a freshman to take over that Granite Hills team. Obviously, a lot of pieces coming back, but to handle everything, he has 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, kind of shows that he's mature and ready to make that breakout, hopefully open division for Granite Hills.
Fair enough. Anybody else that we need to get to? Tommy, do you have any special team stats? I don't know. I said it like that. All mysterious. Do you have like that?
You threw me kind of, hold on. You got me kind of off guard there, but we can talk if you want.
I'm pulling up some. Well, one receiver guy I should have mentioned as well, Arturo Estrada from Central, saw him in their opener this year. 8 touchdowns receiving, but has also brought back 2 kickoffs for touchdowns. So a guy that's doing it several ways there for a Central team that's having a really strong year.
Hey man, I'm all here for Central and Brawley continuing to be successful and getting us a bell game in the playoffs. That would be huge.
Let's see. Donald Moore from Rock Academy, 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Xavier Williams from Hoover, he's got 2. Arturo, who I just mentioned, has 2. So those are guys. And then Nico Jara from Steel Canyon as well. He has 2. So a lot of kickoffs being returned this year. I guess it's just not games I've been at.
So wait, I'm looking at this right now. When they measure yards for kickoffs, that literally just means how far in total the people have kicked it.
Where are you looking?
Is that what? Here, I'll send you what I'm looking at right
now.
Okay.
I will say this though, because a lot of teams do this. The kickoff yards. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is a lot of yards. The kickoff yards and then also the touchback rate is slightly misleading because a lot of teams will on purpose try not to kick it into the end zone. So I hesitate to use those. I wish there was a way to like predetermine like this was an intentional touchback or an intentional, non-touchback, because that happens a lot throughout the county. So it's hard to get a read on those with the kickoffs.
If these stats are right, quite literally, Tyler Prashan or however you say that from Carlsbad has kicked for almost 2 miles worth of kickoffs this season.
I've seen that in person. He is a very, very good kicker, that I can confirm.
Quite literally closing in on 2 full miles of
one I'm just seeing here, Jeremiah Castillo, who we have mentioned, great player at Mount Miguel, 1 rushing touchdown, 8 receiving touchdowns, 2 pick sixes, and a punt return for a touchdown this year. So doing a little bit of everything.
They're not bad, man. They're not bad. It could be a lot of fun to watch that in the playoffs. All right, Tommy mentioned some of the teams that we're going to go on to talk about. So let's get to our game previews and predictions from this week. I want to start with, like we mentioned, Tommy at the beginning of the show has become a bit of a television superstar, and he has got a game again this week that he's going to be broadcasting with the awesome Jonathan Rifkin. They make a great pair. It's something that you need to check out. So, Tommy, it's the game between El Cap and Mount Miguel. Give the people the information. I know you like to say that usually at this point, 2 teams will come together to play a game. That's what you can guarantee in your preview. So let them know how they can watch and what's going on.
Yeah, 2 teams from the same league playing a game that'll start at 7:00. And also make sure you watch it on Channel 4 if you got Cox. If you can't get it for whatever reason, it's on your view. The stream is available. You can find it online. Anyway, yeah, El Cap traveling to Mount Miguel. It will be a good one. Mount Miguel's got that 3-headed monster of Barden, McGowan, and Castillo. They have another, a bunch of other pieces over there at wide receiver, but those are the 3 you got to look at if you're looking at quarterback, running back, and receiver. Brant Barker, a kid that got a lot of attention early on. El Cap kind of had a slow middle of the season, but they're bouncing back now. His favorite receiver, obviously, is Chance LaChapa. As I like to get into LaChapa, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger reference that will probably go over the heads of the majority of of our viewer base here. But it will be a good game. I'm anticipating a close one. I will not pick this one because I will be there, and I don't want to be accused of cheering in the press box. So it'll be a fun one. Make sure you watch it.
Yeah, that's why you hit them with the guarantee of 2 teams will play a game at 7 p.m. and a winner will be decided eventually. Bodie, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this was one I think a couple weeks into the season I'd circled. I thought there was a decent chance that both of them could get to this point undefeated. They did, however, slip up, not to be unexpected there. For El Cap, starting with them, they had a 3-week stretch. They lost those 3 in a row, Santana game in overtime. But since then, they bounced back 38-3, 35-9. So I think they've kind of recovered to figure out who they are. I'm going to go with Mount Miguel. I think just they've been so impressive on both sides of the ball. They're going to score offensively. So I'm going to go with Mount Miguel. I'll say by 10 points here.
I'm all for considering this game not to be a tomato can for Mount Miguel. This is a legitimate test, and Mount Miguel going 8-2 is still a really good season, but obviously they hold themselves to a 10-0 threshold. So the further we get away from the Mount Miguel Bishops game, it is more and more interesting to me to see if that was a legitimate loss or if that was just the blip or if they just had a bad night or they got okay. Like, it seems like that's going to be the exception and not the rule. So definitely you think Mount Miguel in the driver's seat, but this will be a close game. Next one I wanted to talk about is Ramona at San Marcos. D1 seems like it's just going to be absolutely random shuffle and there's not really a driver's seat couple of teams in control of it. But I guess if, San Marcos starts to rattle off a couple more wins to close out the season, they're going to be one of the higher up ones. But I'm curious what you think about this game, Tommy.
Well, we talked about running backs. Adrian Enriquez is a kid who we have so far, who I see right now so far as having 861 rushing yards, but he could have 2,000 because he's had to sit out half the games or the second half of the games, excuse me, because they've had a lot of blowouts. So Ramona's been great on the ground. San Marcos had to figure out a way to, make up for the fact that their starting quarterback was injured. I think that Bradley Jenkins has done a great job of filling in at that spot. He's only a junior. He's had 2 consecutive games with 4 touchdowns. I think San Marcos shocks the world here at home and beats Ramona.
Bodie, your thoughts?
I could really go back and forth on this. I felt Ramona early on. Then I saw that it was San Marcos' senior night, so that had me questioning it a little more there. I'll go with Ramona just because Tommy went San Marcos there, but this is one where if San Marcos were to pull it off, it wouldn't surprise me here. And I think ultimately this league, I've been impressed by these 2 teams plus Del Norte. I think is going to be a really good finish to see who can come out on top there and get that top playoff spot.
Certainly does look like it's shaping up to be a great last couple of weeks of the season. We go out to the East County for the next game with West Hills and Grossmont. Grossmont with Cody Bigley and the aerial raid that seems to be Mike Leach-esque. Easy enough for me to say. Geez, I'm having an awful show. With Anthony Lawrence and his installation of the new offense. Seems like things are really clicking there, but West Hills, always a tough test. They seem like they know every year how to close out a season strong. So I'm curious your thoughts on this game, Bodie.
Yeah, I think with what Grossmont has been doing offensively, I just trust them more in this spot. This league, though, there's been so much attention, obviously, with what Helix and Granite continue to do. I'm going to go with Grossmont at home. I just think I trust them a little more in the spot, but I expect West Hills to kind of keep up pace. So I will go with I don't know how many points is too many. We'll go 37-31 Grossmont here.
Love it. Tommy Morris, your thoughts?
You mentioned Bigley, so I'll make a couple predictions here. He needs 56 yards, I think, to cross a 1,000-yard threshold. I think he'll get that. West Hill's coming off of what is the most difficult part of anyone's schedule out there in the East County. They had to just go play Helix and Granite, not fun. So they get to play an opponent that's more kind of, literally, quite literally at their level. If you look at what division they're in, I think West Hill's, they probably learned a lot the last couple of weeks, but I do like Grossmont here. I think West Hills will do their best to slow this game down, try to limit the amount of possessions. I don't think there'll be as many points as Bodie predicted. I think something like 21-7. I think it'll be a shockingly low scoring game, but I do like Grossmont in this one.
For the last game, we head back to the North County and talk more about the Division I jigsaw puzzle as it comes together in these last couple of weeks, and that's LCC at Mission Hills. Losses on both of these sides that are good and bad, and been close and been not close. So is this going to come down to just because it's at Mission Hills? Mission Hills has the edge, or what are you seeing here, Tommy?
I think it'll help. I was very surprised that Mission Hills lost to Torrey Pines last week, and I know La Costa lost last week as well, but I was really, really surprised. I don't know if that's more of a testament to how much better Torrey Pines has got from the beginning of the year, or if maybe Mission Hills overlooked them. I don't know what was going on there, but I like LCC in an upset here. I think Quinn Roth and the Mavericks have a good thing going over there. And then I guess we'll see, right? Because they got to play Torrey Pines at some point too. So not only is this game big for league, but it's huge for playoff seeding. These are teams that will probably both be in Division I. I don't see any mathematical way they could be open, and they're going to be right around the 1-2 seed. So you win this game, you get that extra bump if you end up being right next to each other in the rankings. So this is going to be huge come playoff time too.
Yeah, Bodie, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a game I was at last year. It's one that La Costa pulled off there at the end. I believe it was 16-10. And La Costa had not beaten Mission Hills in this series since 2009, which surprised me a lot. They really came for it. I'm going to go with Mission Hills to get a bounce back here this year, but I think it's another one that's probably first to 20 points. Like I'll say 2017. I just think they know each other so well. This whole league has played each other so close so far. And as Tommy said, those flips in playoffs are so important here. Where the loser here, I think, might be out of that getting a first round bye range, depending on how they close out. I think Torrey Pines obviously has those wins over El Camino and Mission Hills. If they get La Costa at the end of the year, then they're kind of locking themselves in that top four. So this one is really important if you want that first round bye.
Yeah, I get the sense that the singular security blanket that anybody can really hold on to in D1 is just trying to get a home game and not guaranteeing themselves a bye necessarily. There isn't a group of 6 or 7 that are all vying for that open that someone's just going to have to not be in it and then be a dominant. So could be a phenomenal year for the Division I playoffs. We are not going to bore people with that discussion on top of what has already been a 20-minute show, but I will say that it seems like right now, I don't feel like any of these games are necessarily make or break, because you feel like a lot of these D1 teams are all going to make it anyway. So just get there, get them to the playoffs. But it does seem like Bodie said that there's a lot of home seed and or first round bye implications on there. So I hope you guys go check out everything. You can follow along at the Scorebook Live app. You can watch Tommy 7 p.m. It's Thursday night, correct?
Thursday night.
At 7 p.m. Thursday night, Channel 4. Guys, anything else we missed from high school football this week? No, love it. Nothing like empty silence at the end of a show. All right, talk to you guys next week.